Welcome to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael M. Hotel. It is Monday, April 12th, 2021, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing well today. We know it's been a very trying and traumatic last, 48 hours. So today was day 11 of the Derek Chauvin Trial in the murder of George Floyd. So we're going to give you an update on what happened today. And the prosecution rested their case today, so it's expected that the defense is going to present their case starting Tuesday. And we heard from a cardiologist today who testified that George Floyd's death was absolutely preventable. And then also we heard from a use of force expert as well. More damaging testimony came out today in the Derek Chauvin trial. Okay, we heard from cardiologist Jonathan Rich. And then we also heard from Seth Stoughton, who is a nationally recognized use of force expert. They both testified on behalf of the prosecution. Then we also heard from Philonis as well, George Floyd, Philonis Floyd, George Floyd's younger brother, in a very emotional testimony. So last night, when I got off the air, and we had a really good show, our Sunday night show, I guess was Cam Howard of Cobra, and we talked about HR 40, and we talked about an upcoming vote in the House Judiciary Committee to advance HR 40 out of committee to a general floor vote. And this has never happened before. So when I got off the air last night, I saw the story breaking about Daunte Wright in outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's not in Minneapolis, Minnesota, so people stop saying it's Minneapolis. It's Brooklyn Center, which is a suburb of Minneapolis, Minnesota. I've been trying to figure out how much of this stuff I want to cover on the show. Just to be perfectly honest with you, I didn't want to do tonight's show, just to be perfectly honest with you. I monitor about 35 different news sources on a daily basis. I've been watching every day of the Derek Chauvin trial. I only post on Facebook a fraction of what I read on a daily basis. And here on the show, I'm careful about the content that I cover because I cover more killings and more abuse of African Americans than I actually talk about here on the show. So when I got off the air last night, I saw the story breaking about what was going on in Brooklyn Center. And if you go and look at my timeline on Facebook and look at it on the African History Network on Facebook, you see I was posting articles about the killing that was taking place. And these were early articles. And I'm going through reading, and even I was in the bed reading this stuff. And I probably shouldn't do that, but you know, I get updates throughout the day and throughout the night from different news sources. So I'm going through reading, and I'm reading the details, even though the details were early, and I'm trying to figure out how a traffic stop for expired tags and or a air freshener hanging from the rearview mirror, how this escalates to a 20-year-old man being shot and killed. And I'm looking at the early reports, and I'm trying to figure this out And I didn't post any of my personal comments or things like that because I've been doing radio for 11 years, so I know to get the facts before you start posting personal comments. Um, but I'm reading through it, and I'm reading the statements from the mother, and then he's being he's pulled over. She They want proof of insurance, different things like this. And when I'm reading that he was shot one time, drove away, crashed a car, ended up dying. And I'm trying to figure out, how did this escalate to that point? So then, now this is early. This is early. What's the day? This is early Monday morning, April 12th. I don't know, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't know, because I think I got to bed 3 in the morning. So it was maybe 2, 3 in the morning. You can go back and look at the timestamps of the articles that I posted. And I'm going through reading this, and I'm like, how did this escalate to this? So then we see the press conference held today. Um, you had the mayor, you had the police chief, and we'll talk. We're coming up on the break. We'll talk about this some more after the break. We'll talk about this a little bit. I'm not going. I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. It's not that it's not important. It's just after dealing with 11 days at the Derek Chauvin trial and watching the testimony, I've watched all of it. I report on it each night, so I need to know what I'm talking about. And I not only watch it, I go through and read about this as well. So there's only so much I can take. But anyway, so then the press conference takes place today, and you have the police chief, and you have the mayor. Now, in this is a little city, Brooklyn Center. And in this city, the city manager basically has the power as opposed to the mayor. And some small cities are like that. This is the case with Ferguson, Missouri. If you go back and remember Ferguson, Missouri, when Michael Brown was killed, the mayor in Ferguson, Missouri, it was a part-time position. The mayor wasn't a full-time position. The mayor was a part-time position. The city manager had majority of control. So then we find out that according to the body camera footage, and they released the body camera footage right away. They showed it at the press conference today. So I'm looking at body camera footage, and I've seen it one too many times of Daunte Wright being killed. I'm looking at footage day after day after day of George Floyd being executed in broad daylight. And then we see Lieutenant Rodriguez. We see him being threatened with execution by one officer there in Windsor, Virginia. And luckily he survived. He's filed a huge civil rights lawsuit against the department. We'll talk about that tomorrow. I'm not dealing with 3 cases on today's show. I'm just not. But so then we find out at the press conference that based upon the body camera footage and what officer, her name has been released, Kimberly Potter. I got the update from the New York Post. So they released her name, so it's out there. 26-year veteran, according to MSNBC, Lawrence O'Donnell, 26-year veteran. New York Post says 25-year veteran, whatever. She's been an officer longer than Daunte Wright has been alive. So then, based upon now, I'm looking at the video, and I've seen the video 2 or 3 too many times. I'm looking at this video and she's yelling taser, 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 but she has a gun drawn. She's yelling taser, 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 but she has her gun drawn. And they yell taser, taser, taser to let the other officers know around that they're about to fire the taser, so they don't actually get hit by it. So they understand, okay, what's about to happen. Your taser is yellow. Your taser feels different. The weight of the taser is different. Usually, and as the police chief said, they train with their gun on their dominant side of their body, and 85% of Americans are right-handed, so your gun's going to be right-handed side, and they train with their taser on the weak side of the body, which is the left side. So when I was looking at the early reports on this killing, I'm trying to figure out how the hell does this thing escalate to this point. So then we hear that it's the police chief said, based upon the video and her saying, "Oh, I shot him," and the expletive, "Oh, sugar honey iced tea, I shot him." Okay, after she said taser, 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 and you can see the video from the body camera. She has a gun. Her gun's black, and she's saying taser, taser, taser. She's a 26-year veteran. Now I don't know how much experience she has, like in actual like combat or actual drawing your gun, shooting somebody. I don't know how much experience she actually has, like high pressure experience. I don't know. I know she's part of a negotiation team, things like that. All right, look, we're up against a break. Listen to the Advocate History Network show, right? Who cares? Go to break, Shakita. Stand by. We'll be back from break in 4 minutes. Stand by. Stand by, everybody. Everybody share this broadcast in your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in. Stand by. Back from break in 2 minutes.
American Talk Radio.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Monday, April 12th, 2021. We are live. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. If you have a quick question or comment, 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. If you have a quick question or comment. Okay, so right before the break, I was saying I was reading early reports early this morning, like about 2 a.m, something like that, of 2 a.m, right? But I was reading it when I got off the air for the Sunday night show, and I was trying to figure out how did this traffic stop for expired tags, Daunte Wright, how did this escalate to him being shot and killed? So then we see the press conference today. And I'm trying to figure out how does before we knew before I heard how long the officer had been on the force, I'm trying to figure out how does an officer mistake his or her taser for a gun? Now I know it's happened before. It happened with Oscar Grant, with the transportation officer. It happened in Oklahoma. There was a case in Oklahoma where you had a reserve officer. I remember that case. I've covered a lot of these cases. I've been doing radio 11 years. But I'm still trying to figure out your taser is usually on your left side of the body. And this police department, this is not Minneapolis police, so stop saying it's Minneapolis. This is Brooklyn Center, which is a suburb of Minneapolis. It's about 10 miles away from Minneapolis, Minnesota. They train with your gun on your dominant side of your body. And 85% of Americans are right-handed, so it's going to be on your right side, and your taser on your left side, the opposite side. So the taser is usually yellow. Their gun is usually black, or it could be silver. There are 300 million guns, according to Scientific American, the article from about 3 years ago. There are about 300 million guns in the U.S. Maybe one or two are yellow. I haven't seen a yellow gun, but it may exist. But I haven't seen a police officer with a yellow gun. So I'm trying to figure out what happened. Then we find out late today. We find out officer is a 26-year veteran. So okay, I don't understand that one. So we'll get more details on that. All right. On the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. Because right now it's correct wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man or woman's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his or her actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Now we deal with a number of different topics here. We deal with current events in history, politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828. Or visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. If you like this type of information, you can support the African History Network. $, the AHN show through Cash App. $, the AHN show through Cash App, or through PayPal. PayPal.me/the AHN show. PayPal.me/the AHN show. Okay. We have a new session of our online course, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school, starting up Saturday, April 17th. 2 p.m. Eastern Standard, so 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Saturday, April 17th, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay. So visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, for more information, and you hear me talk more about that. You can register for that online course. This is going to be 9 weeks, 18 hours, meeting on Saturdays. Okay. And it's an online course. Watch from around the world. Shakita, I'm about to send you this clip of Flip Wilson and Red Fox. Okay, cue that up, please. All right. So we're going to go to day 11 of the Derek Chauvin trial in the murder of George Floyd. Thank God the trial's wrapping up. I've watched every day of it. So we're going to go to clip one, Shakita, in just a second here. So today we heard from two experts. We heard from a cardiologist as well as a use of force expert. Now, and then also we heard from Philonise Floyd as well. Now, prosecutors called George Floyd's brother to the stand, and this was to talk about his brother. Philonise Floyd broke into tears when he was shown a picture of his late mother and George Floyd when he was younger, and he was put on a witness stand just to talk about George Floyd, talk about George Floyd's life, to humanize George Floyd more. Okay. Before Philonise Floyd testified, we heard from Dr. Jonathan Rich. Dr. Jonathan Rich is a cardiologist who took the stand as the third week of testimony got underway. Dr. Jonathan Rich challenged the defense's argument that George Floyd's death was not caused by Derek Chauvin kneeling on George Floyd's neck, but rather by George Floyd's drug use and heart complications, okay, which is false. All the experts have refuted that, but this is all the defense has, okay? Now, once again, I've cautioned you all before. The prosecution has done an excellent job, but the defense has not presented their case yet. Okay, so the defense is expected to present their case starting Tuesday. They're going to bring forth their witnesses. They're going to tear down George Floyd, make him, okay, turn him into this King Kong like drug user. So this, I mean, be prepared for a bunch of racist stereotypes to come out. Well, they've already come out. We've seen some dog whistles, but you're probably going to hear some foghorns. Okay, so just be prepared for that. Dr. Jonathan Rich, cardiologist, said after reviewing all the facts in the evidence of the case, I can state with a high degree of certainty. That George Floyd did not die from a primary cardiac event, and he did not die from a drug overdose. Okay. So once again, see, now there's a history. There's a history of African Americans being blamed for our own deaths. There's a history. Now there's no perfect victim. Okay. There's not a such thing as a perfect victim. But there's a history of us being blamed for our own deaths. You know, blame it on the alcohol. It wasn't the knee on the neck. It was the drugs. You know, this is historic. Okay. And a lot of this has to do with historical fears of African American, especially African American men high on drugs, and what are they going to do? What are they going to do to white women when they're high on drugs? And we've talked about the article from the New York Times from February 8th, 1914. Negro cocaine fiends have turned to sniffing now that whiskey is illegal due to prohibition, something like that. We'll bring up this article. So this, all this ties into history. All this ties into history, and you're dealing with stereotypes and racism. And we're seeing this play out in the trial. We see them talking about, we see the defense talking about George Floyd's size. He was 6'3". He wasn't 8'3". He was 6'3". Chauvin is 5'9". That means George Floyd was 4 inches. Well, George Floyd was so he's what, 6 inches taller than Chauvin. Chauvin's never dealt with suspects taller than him. Is that how he deals with suspects taller than him? Come on. They had like George Floyd was 8'3". He was 6'3". Come on. But look at this article here. We've talked about this before. Go research this one. This is from the New York Times, February 8th, 1914. This was exactly 1 year before the movie The Birth of a Nation came out. In The Birth of a Nation, that movie calls race riots in the streets. All of the negative stereotypical images of African Americans were depicted in that movie. Negro cocaine fiends are a new Southern menace. Murder and insanity increasing among lower class blacks because they have taken to sniffing since deprived of whiskey by prohibition. Now, this is not satire. This is a real article. Go research this. This article it's over 100 years old. This is from February 8th, 1914, from the New York Times. It's a very famous article. It's written by Dr. Edward Huntington Williams. And this article talks about the fear of black men high on cocaine. And do police officers now need to carry a 35 caliber handgun, a 45 caliber handgun? Do police officers now need to carry a 45 caliber handgun because the 38 is not powerful enough to kill a Negro high on cocaine? And one of the fears was that not only would black men have superhuman strength when they're high on drugs or high on cocaine, but they will also not feel pain. And this then also ties into a history of slavery and stereotypes in slavery of African Americans, that we had a higher pain tolerance. Therefore, we were more suited for slavery. Okay. See, all this deals with images, stereotypes, what people have been taught about us. This is why I'm so critical of the images that are depicted of African Americans, whether it's in music, whether it's songs like WAP from Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion that show a hypersexualization of African American women, which is historic, which goes back to slavery. Whether it's negative corporate control hip hop and African Americans being depicted as thugs and criminals and hoodlums, etc. Whether it's TV shows like Empire, because I've been studying this for 30 years. So research this article. Let's go to clip one, Shakita. This is from NBC. This is from NBC Nightly News. George Floyd's brother, Phalonis, testifies in Chauvin trial. This is day 11 of the Derek Chauvin trial. Let's go to this clip.
Attorney asked the judge to sequester the jury.
I would note for the court that we have at least one juror who's a resident of that particular city, and other jurors who have connections to Brooklyn Center.
The judge denied the motion.
I understand the argument from the defense that this now puts them even more ill at ease, but I think sequestering them would only aggravate that.
The prosecution then called its 36th witness, Chicago cardiologist Dr. Jonathan Rich.
I believe that Mr. George Floyd's death was absolutely preventable.
He testified that George Floyd's death was caused by low oxygen levels induced by Chauvin's restraint.
George Floyd did not die from a primary cardiac event, and he did not die from a drug overdose.
Next on the stand, Floyd's brother, Phalonis.
He just knew how to make people feel better.
He was what's known as a spark of life witness, meant to show the jury more about Floyd's life and family.
That's my mother. She's no longer with us right now, but that's my oldest brother, George. I miss both of them.
The prosecution's final witness, Seth Soden, a national use of force expert from South Carolina.
It's clear from the number of officers and Mr. Floyd's position, the fact that he's handcuffed and has been searched, he doesn't present a threat of harm.
It's not clear how many witnesses the defense will call or whether Chauvin himself will testify. Chauvin's attorney has indicated he'll call at least one police officer back to the stand. But today, the judge said he'll limit the questioning of Maurice Hall, the passenger in Floyd's SUV, who told the court he'll invoke the Fifth Amendment to avoid questions about whether he provided Floyd drugs. The prosecution now expects to officially rest its case tomorrow, Lester.
And Gabe, a few moments ago, I understand you spoke with the Floyd family. What did they have to say?
Yeah, Phalonis Floyd told me it's been an extremely emotional day, and family attorney Ben Crump told me the family is outraged that another officer would be so reckless in the midst of this trial.
Okay. So prosecution is expected to rest tomorrow. The prosecution is near the conclusion of its presentation today, but they're expected to rest on Tuesday. We're going to go to clip 2 here in just a minute, Shakita. And then let me see how I want to do this. We got 20 minutes left. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to change it up a little bit. This is Flip Wilson and Red Fox from the Flip Wilson Show. Okay, this is some comic relief. Let's go to this clip, Shakita.
What you say? And be careful, too.
In the first place, I want you to know how delighted I am to be a guest on your new show.
Thank you.
And I'm well aware at this early evening hour, a great many young people are watching.
Yes.
So I prepared some material specially designed for young folk.
Great.
Now, children, there were these 2 traveling salesmen. No, they were selling yo-yos. I was only teasing. I love children. I wouldn't do nothing to offend one of them. See, I think children are a blessing.
Yes.
And when you see couples with no children, you feel sorry for them. You know what I mean? They don't know what it means to watch their 5-year-old come in the house with $150 worth of braces in his mouth, broken and bent on a 5-cent-piece peanut brittle. See, couples without children, they don't know what to do. They're just laying somewhere on a yacht, relaxing, on the beach all day, laying around drunk. No, kids, drinking is a sin. Stop drinking. Don't be drinking, kids, because that soda pop will rot your teeth out. I was talking about that to my wife just the other day, Flip.
How is your wife?
Well, she's all right if you like her.
Well, I don't want to have your wife mad at me. You better explain that to the people.
No, I mean, she's a wonderful woman, but she just happens to be on the large side. And I come home every day and walk in the house, there she is, in an orange negligee. She weighs 326 pounds.
Really?
Yeah, 326 pounds. Thinks I love her because when she gets in the bed, I roll toward her.
Say, Greg, you just finished a very successful tour, didn't you?
Yeah, I made a great swing through the Southwest.
Yeah.
And they speak an entirely different language down there, but clean. Oh, yeah, clean, but different. For example, take a little word like foe.
Foe, you mean the enemy?
No, I mean foe that's less than 5. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh.
And so.
You mean like with a needle, right?
No. I mean like when you get your head whipped, it gets so.
Oh,
yeah, so. Yeah, that's what they talk about it. And like flow.
Yeah.
Flow is like what we standing on. That's the flow. And roll. See, roll. I like rolling.
Yeah.
It's like a lion's roll. Roll line. You know what I mean? And show.
Yeah.
See, show is like at the edge of the lake. Meet me at the show. And whoa.
Trouble.
No. That's like when your shoe is wore out. And smoke.
Now, what is smoke?
Smoke is like a second helping. I don't smoke.
You know why people talk that way, don't you?
No, why?
Well, they heard those words in popular songs. Like for a long time ago, there was this song called "River Stay Away from My Dough." Now, obviously, this was the fella singing about his pet deer who couldn't swim. River, stay away from my dough. So he took the little dough inside the house and shut the door. And he sang, "River, stay away from my door." See, but everybody around there knew he didn't care about the door. He was worried about the dough. So from that time on, whenever they were building a house, all the architects and carpenters and the builders would say, "Never mind finding a place for the windows. Where we gonna put the dough?"
Okay, well, I told you I had something for kids. Yeah. I got a tongue twister. Can you stand back a little bit? Give me a little room. You know what I mean? A little more room. I need all the room I can get. Can you give me a drum roll? Stephanie, are you ready? Ready? Go then. I bought a batch of baking powder and baked a batch of biscuits. I bought a big basket of biscuits back to the bakery and baked a biscuit in a big basket. Then I took a big basket of biscuits and a basket of big biscuits and mixed the big biscuits with the basket of biscuits that was next to the big basket and put a bunch of biscuits in the basket into a box. Then I took the box of mixed biscuits into the biscuit mixer and the biscuit max and brought the basket of biscuits and the box of mixed biscuits and the biscuit mixer to the bakery, opened up a can of sardines, had me a ball.
All right. So that was from the Flip Wilson show. So that was from the early 70s because Red Fox said, "Congratulations on your new show." So this was early 70s, the Flip Wilson show. What you see is what you get. All right. We're going to go to clip 2 here. This is from the Derek Chauvin Trial. How's everybody doing? Just wanted a little comic relief in there. I was trying to figure out which clip to play. So we're going to go back to the trial. So this is cardiologist Jonathan Rich. And cardiologist Jonathan Rich delivered some devastating testimony again today. Another expert witness that delivered some devastating testimony. He testified that George Floyd's death was, quote unquote, absolutely preventable if he was not kept in the prone position. He also said that the officer should have helped George Floyd after he appeared to lose consciousness. Okay, let's go to clip 2, Shakita.
Taking into account all of the evidence that you reviewed, do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty as to whether Mr. Floyd's death was preventable?
Yes, I do.
Would you tell us what that opinion is?
Yes, I believe that Mr. George Floyd's death was absolutely preventable.
Were there critical points in time during his subdual and restraint on the ground when you feel measures could have or should have been taken that would have preserved his life?
Yes, I do. I think there were several junctures, actually.
Would you tell us about those?
Sure. Well, the first, of course, was to not subject him to that initial prone restraint positioning that he was subjected to. I mean, that is first and foremost. So if that was not the case, I don't think he would have died. The second, though, was when he was in that subdual and restraint positioning. And he was stating repeatedly that he can't breathe. And he was getting a little weaker in his speech. There was one moment in the video where I heard one of the officers saying, I think he's passing out. That would have been an opportunity to quickly relieve him from that position of not getting enough oxygen, perhaps turn him into a recovery position and allow him to start to expand his lungs again and bring in oxygen and get rid of carbon dioxide. So in addition to not putting him in that position in the first place, when there were signs that he was worsening, repositioning him, I think very likely would have also saved his life.
Okay, so there were different opportunities there. Now, this is a well-respected cardiologist, Dr. Jonathan Rich. There were different opportunities there to save George Floyd's life, as we've heard from other expert witnesses, doctors, etc. Now, they talked about, so Dr. Jonathan Rich's testimony was very, very important today. And I want to flip over here to the Washington Post. Okay, so now witnesses for the prosecution included a cardiology expert who discounted a sudden heart attack or a drug overdose in George Floyd's death, and also an expert of use of force. You're going to hear from Seth Stoughton in just a minute, use of force expert. Now, let me scroll down here. Okay, so I want to go to clip 3. This is why cardiologist Dr. Jonathan Rich, why cardiologist was linchpin witness for prosecution in Derek Chauvin trial. Let's go to clip 3, Shakita. Take it off mute.
Now on defense. I know that the burden of proof is, of course, on the prosecution, but as we've seen the drama, really, of this case, what does the defense now have to do?
The defense can do 2 things here. What they'd really like is to get an acquittal, but that would require a unanimous jury to find that the government hasn't met its burden of proving former officer Chauvin guilty. That's a heavy lift here. What also helps the defense, though, would be what's called a hung jury, and that would be 1 or more jurors who refuse to vote for guilt when the remainder of the jury has decided that the evidence is sufficient to do that. If the jury hangs, there is no conviction, the government can go ahead and try its case a second time. So in that sense, it just kicks the can down the road for Chauvin. But that would also be a better outcome for them than a conviction. But, you know, Chuck is absolutely right in his assessment of this expert. He has made the defense's job a lot more difficult. And in that final question, where he was asked to speculate a little bit about cause of death, and he had to make a decision, he could have responded to the defense by saying, well, yes, that's theoretically possible. Instead, he didn't do that. He did what a smart witness would do, and he said, I examined the record, and in this case, that didn't happen. Cause of death is essentially asphyxiation. He was a linchpin witness for the prosecution.
Okay, so that's from Andrea Mitchell. That's more commentary dealing with the cardiologist testimony, Dr. Jonathan Rich. I want to flip over here to the updates from the Washington Post quickly. Then we're going to go to clip 4. Let me see. Yeah, we're going to go to clip 4, Shakita, the use of force expert. Now, let's look at this here. Cardiologists Chauvin and other officers had the opportunity to save George Floyd's life. Okay, that's what he just testified to. He said there was a moment in the video where I heard one of the officers say, quote, I think he's passing out, end quote. Dr. Jonathan Rich said on the witness stand Monday, describing the video of Floyd's arrest and restraint on the pavement, quote, that would have been an opportunity to quickly relieve him from the position, that position of not getting enough oxygen, perhaps turn him into a recovery position and allow him to start to expand his lungs again. Okay, now, and then he also testified that George Floyd did not die from a drug overdose. And what the expert witnesses are doing is going through systematically destroying the defense's argument before the defense get a chance to present their case. George Floyd did not die from a drug overdose, cardiologist testifies. Cardiologist Dr. Jonathan Rich told the court Monday that he was confident that George Floyd did not die from a sudden heart attack or from a drug overdose. He said, after reviewing all of the facts and evidence of the case, I can state with a high degree of medical certainty that George Floyd did not die from a primary cardiac event, and he did not die from a drug overdose. Elaborating on his conclusion about drugs, Dr. Jonathan Rich said even though a toxicology report showed that the presence of the opiate fentanyl in George Floyd's blood, there was simply no evidence to suggest an overdose caused his death. He said, quote, "Number one, it appeared to me that Mr. Floyd, who was an acknowledged frequent chronic user of substances, particularly opiates, likely developed a high degree of tolerance." Quote, "But the second and most important, maybe more important, was I didn't see any of the signs of an opiate overdose. I didn't see any of the signs of an opiate overdose when I reviewed the videos." Okay. So check this out from Washington Post also. This is the live updates they have. Defense expected to begin presentation Tuesday as prosecution appears to near conclusion. All right. Let's see. This last clip, we'll play this off air. We're out of time here on 910 a.m. Superstation WFDF. Those watching on Facebook and YouTube, keep watching. We'll go for a few more minutes here. Not much longer, but we'll go for a few more minutes on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and my YouTube channel, Michael M. Hotep. Remember, right now, it's correct wrong behavior is not over till we win. Wakanda forever. Stay tuned for Democracy Now! We'll talk to you tomorrow night. Peace. All right. Okay, let's continue here. I want to go to use of force expert Seth Stoughton, who testified today as well. So I'm going to cue this up. Everybody share this broadcasting and social media platforms. Stand by. Okay, stand by. I'm trying to cue this up.
Now, I need to ask you, at the time that he was placed prone, when this use of force was done, was Mr. Floyd a threat?
So again, threat is specific, but I don't see him presenting a threat of anything. He was not a threat of harm to the officers, even to the extent he had physical ability. He didn't have much in the way of opportunity to assault or harm the officers. And just as importantly, there's no specific and articulable facts that an officer, a reasonable officer in the defendant's position could use to conclude that he had the intention of causing physical harm to the officers or others. It's very clear that although he had legs, so I suppose he had the physical ability to run away, he does not have the opportunity to do so. And again, there's no facts from which we could assess any intention to escape, so no threat of escape. And really, in light of the situation, there's not even a credible threat of obstructing the investigation. With 4 officers in the immediate area and one more, I believe a park police officer, maybe half a block away across the street, there are ample resources on scene to maintain control and custody of Mr. Floyd. 2 officers can stand with him, and the other 2 can go about doing the what was ultimately a forgery investigation.
Okay, so that was testimony from use of force expert Seth Stoughton, who also delivered damaging testimony today as well. I want to go back over to Washington Post. All right. So you can check that out also. He was an excellent witness. He was an excellent witness as well today. All right, just a second. Hold on. Okay. All right. Now, I want to switch gears. I want to go to the press conference that the city of Brooklyn Center, Minnesota had today, and Police Chief Tim Gannon and Mayor Mike Elliott in the killing of Daunte Wright. And we talked about this at the beginning of the show. We'll talk about this some more on Tuesday's show. It's just crazy how this escalated. It's just crazy how this escalated to someone being killed. Okay. So I want to go to this clip here. We're going to cue this up because we're not on 9:10 a.m. now, so I have to do all this myself. Stand by. All right, everybody, share this broadcast on social media platforms also. Be sure to register for our class that starts up Saturday, April 17th, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. And you can register at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Okay, so we know that the name of the police officer has been released. And I'm going to look up the updates here. So the police killing in Minneapolis, Minnesota has increased attention around the trial of Derek Chauvin. Hundreds of people gathered Monday night past the region's 7 p.m. Curfew also. Okay. Now we know that in the Derek Chauvin trial, we know that in the Derek Chauvin trial today that defense attorney Eric Nelson asked for the jury to be sequestered, but the Judge Cahill, refused to allow the jury to be sequestered because of the killing that took place in Brooklyn Center, which is about 10 miles away from Minneapolis, the protests taking place, the news coverage, etc. Defense attorney Eric Nelson didn't want that to somehow influence the jury. Okay, I want to go to this clip from this press conference today. Here is Brooklyn Center, Minnesota Police Chief Tim Gannon and Mayor Mike Elliott briefing reporters on the killing of Daunte Wright. Let's go to this clip.
As I watched the video and listened to the officer's commands, it is my belief that the officer had the intention to deploy their taser, but instead shot Mr. Wright with a single bullet. This appears to me, from what I viewed and the officer's reaction and distress immediately after, that this was an accidental discharge that resulted in the tragic death of Mr. Wright. I have asked the BCA to conduct an independent investigation into the shooting and death. Once they are completed, I expect they will submit their findings, independent of me, to the appropriate authorities, the appropriate attorneys that will look and review this case. I'm also stressing that I do hope for the community to be patient and allow this criminal investigation, to be completed as thoroughly as possible. I believe Mr. Wright deserves this, as do all involved.
Obviously, this is deeply tragic, and we're going to do everything that we can to ensure justice is done, to ensure that our communities are made whole. And with respect to the events last night, obviously there were folks in their community who were grieving, who showed up initially at the location where Daunte Wright was killed, and were gathering. And obviously later on, as the night went on and unfolded, there were a series of events that led to an escalation in the protest later on into the evening. Later on, I did issue a curfew, which was in place until 6 a.m. this morning, to ensure that we're taking steps to keep the community safe. We do want to emphasize that we believe strongly in people's rights to gather and to express their grievance and to protest. That is a fundamental American right, and we're going to protect that right. And at the same time, we're going to also work to protect the safety of our community.
Okay, so that was an excerpt from the press conference today. Now, once again, as I was saying, as I was reading the story early this morning, when I got off the air from doing our Sunday night show, okay, and I'm going to post a link here to that clip from MSNBC. Minnesota police chief says Wright's shooting appears to have been an accidental discharge. Mayor calls it deeply tragic. Once again, in reviewing the body camera footage, because I looked at the body camera footage, Officer Potter, because her name has been released, Officer Kimberly Potter, 26-year veteran, she says taser, 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 but she has her gun drawn. She says taser, 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 as she has her gun drawn, saying taser. And you can see her gun on the body camera, and the gun is black. Her gun's on the right side of her body, most likely. Her taser's on the left side of her body. So how she made that mistake, I don't understand that. I've heard of mistakes like that happening, but I don't understand, especially a 26-year veteran. Minnesota officials on Monday identified the police officer who shot Daunte Wright as Kim Potter, a 26-year veteran of the Brooklyn Center Police Department, and said she had been placed on administrative leave. The state's Bureau of Criminal Apprehension said in a brief statement that Officer Potter had been placed on standard administrative leave. The statement did not elaborate, citing an active investigation. The Star Tribune newspaper reported on Monday, April 12th, that Officer Potter, 48 years old, had been licensed as a police officer in Minnesota in 1995. It said that her duties over the course of her tenure had included serving on the department's negotiation team. Officer Potter could not be reached for comment. She had been among the first to arrive at the scene after Kobe Edgar Demock Heisler, 21, was fatally shot in Brooklyn Center 2 years ago. An investigative report from the Hennepin County Attorney's Office stated that she told 2 officers involved in the shooting to exit the residence, get into separate squad cars, turn off their body cameras, and not talk to each other. The Hennepin County report said the officers were found to be, quote, justified in resorting to deadly force, end quote, during the confrontation with Mr. Demock Heisler. Now, the report released last year in 2020 identified Officer Kim Potter as the president of the local police union. Okay, the report released last year in 2020 identified Officer Kimberly Potter as the president of the local police union. On Monday, the Brooklyn Center police chief, Tim Gannon, told reporters that he believed that Officer Potter, quote unquote, had the intention to deploy her taser against Daunte Wright during a traffic stop on Sunday, quote, but instead shot Mr. Wright with a single bullet, end quote. So let me see here. I'm looking up the updates from the New York Times. Protesters gather for a second night of protests. Okay, I want to go over to the quickly here to the reporting from NBC News. So once again, I was 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm looking at this story evolving, and I'm posting articles about it. And I'm trying to figure out how the hell did this escalate? I'm trying to figure out how the hell did this happen? So, you know, it's crazy. Still trying to figure this out. Okay. let me scroll down here. I'm going to see if there's any updates that I want to zoom in on. So we know that now. I was at the press conference today. They had a lot of community activists there. Now, one of the questions was asked was that because of COVID, it's harder to renew your tags, to get your new tags, your registration, things like this, on your birthday, because of COVID restrictions at the Secretary of State's office, restrictions of how many people can be in the Secretary of State's office at a time. We had that happen here in the state of Michigan. For a period of time, you could only go to, basically, you had to set up an appointment. You had to go online, basically set up an appointment. You may be able to call and get through. Set up an appointment to go to the Secretary of State's office to take care of certain business. They were restricted for a certain period of time, like what type of things they could do. There was an extension here. There was lenience here in the state of Michigan. If your tags had expired, there was lenience because at one point you couldn't even go to get them renewed. You may be able to do it online, but you couldn't go and physically get them renewed. So we've seen that take place. Okay, so one of the activists was asking the question, well, have you instructed your officers to be lenient on people who have expired tags, not pull them over or what have you? So this whole thing is just crazy. But the Brooklyn Center Police Department released body camera video on Sunday's encounter, which ended in the death of Daunte Wright, okay, who was shot in the suburb about 14 miles north of where George Floyd was killed last year. The video appeared to show Daunte Wright getting out of his car and then getting back in as officers tried to apprehend him. Let me flip over, turn on the screen share here. Let's see here. Okay, so the Brooklyn Center Department released body cam video of Sunday's encounter, which ended in the death of Daunte Wright, 20 years old. Now, the video appeared to show Wright getting out of his car and then back in as officers tried to apprehend him on an undisclosed outstanding misdemeanor warrant. Undisclosed outstanding misdemeanor warrant that they discovered after they pulled him over. Okay, so they didn't know about the outstanding warrant before they put him over. It's a misdemeanor, and from what I'm hearing, it was it was a misdemeanor warrant, and it has something to do also with not appearing in court. Okay, but it's a misdemeanor warrant. All right. As Wright got back into his car, a female. What happened was they were trying to apprehend him. I saw the video. They were trying to apprehend him. They had him up against the car, his hands behind his back. He breaks away and gets into the car. This is when you see the female. You see the body camera footage from the female officer, and she pulls out a gun and says, "Taser, taser, taser," and then shoots him. And then she says, expletive, "I just shot him." Okay, as the car pulls away. But she yells, "Taser, taser, taser," but has her gun drawn. And you see it's a black gun. It's not a taser. So the Minnesota Department of Public Safety Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, which is investigating the shooting Monday night, identified the officer who fired as Officer Kim Potter. She has been with the Brooklyn Center Police Department for 26 years, it said. Daunte Wright died of a gunshot wound to the chest, according to a report from the Hennepin County Medical Examiner, which classified the manner of death as a homicide. Police Chief Tim Gannon says he believes it is clear the officer meant to draw a taser, but, quote, drew their handgun instead of their taser, end quote. All right. And we heard the statement from Police Chief Gannon. He said, quote, this appears to me from what I viewed and the officer's reaction and distress immediately after that, this was an accidental discharge that resulted in a tragic death of Mr. Wright. Okay, so here's a picture of Daunte Wright. So we'll see how this progresses. It could be a manslaughter charge against the officer. It's just crazy. I was sitting there reading this story early this morning, trying to figure this out. And then I'm reading about in the state of Minnesota, it's illegal to have an air freshener hanging from your rearview mirror. That can obstruct your vision. That's true. I understand that, but it's like, how does expired tags escalate to him being dead? Okay, let me see here. All right. Let's see. Unrest from the deadly incident prompted Minnesota Governor Tim Walz to announce a 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew for Hennepin County. We already know they were protesting out here Monday night. After the curfew took effect, the crowd remained in Brooklyn Center, chanting "Say His Name" and calling for justice as night fell. All right. So we'll cover this. We'll talk about this some more on Tuesday's show. Okay. All right, guys. Hey, if you like this type of information, also you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, or through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show, paypal.me/the AHN Show. When you do it through Cash App, be sure to type in $ the AHN Show, SHOW, and it'll say Michael and show my picture there. Okay. This helps us keep doing the research and stay on the air. We're here 6 days a week, Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time, and Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can register for the online course that I teach, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa. Understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. We're wrapping up the Tuesday class. We have a new Saturday class that's starting up Saturday, April 17th, 12 noon to 2 p.m. 12 noon to 2 p.m. starts Saturday, April 17th. So you can register now. We do thousands of years of history, and we do what led up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. I do a PowerPoint presentation. We have book references, articles, video clips. And, when we deal with the transatlantic slave trade, we can't start talking about it or studying it in the 15th century. We can't start in 1441 with the Portuguese going into Mauritania. We have to deal with thousands of years of history and what led up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. And we have to also understand that African people have been in the land we call the United States of America going back at least 51,700 years ago. These were the Khoisan. They have the oldest DNA on the planet. They come from Southern Africa. So one of the references in the class is the first Americans were Africans, documented evidence by Dr. David M. Hotep. First Americans were Africans, documented evidence by Dr. David M. Hotep. So we deal with the African presence in this land going back tens of thousands of years, before Native Americans came into existence, before the transatlantic slave trade starts. All right. African people were here. We had already circumnavigated the globe. The Khoisan are the ancestors to the Ainu and the Twa. They go all around the world. So it's historically inaccurate to think that African people first came to this land in 1619. Yes, that did happen in Virginia. Those 20 and odd Africans on the White Lion pirate ship come into Point Comfort in Virginia. That did happen, but we were here for tens of thousands of years before that. So we deal with that history. We deal with the history of the Africans known as the Moors going into Spain and Portugal in 711 AD, taking the teachings from ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt into Europe and bringing Europe out of the Dark Ages. Because Europe had the period of ignorance, not Africa. Europe had the Dark Ages. And there's going to be these teachings that the Moors are taking into Europe that brings Europe out of the Dark Ages. And then we're going to go into the transatlantic slave trade, and all those things that we taught the Europeans came back to kick us in the behind. This is why I say I wish we had never taught them. All those things we taught the Europeans came back to kick us in the behind. Okay. All right. So if you go to our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, right on the homepage, you scroll down, we have the information for the online classes. Regularly $130 is on sale $80. We have it right here underneath the information for the radio show. Click right here to register here. It takes you to the next page. And you just click right here to enroll. All right. And as soon as you register, you can start watching previous content. As you can start watching previous content from some previous classes. But the new session starts up Saturday, April 17th. 12 noon, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right. So we do the classes live. All the classes are recorded, so you can go back and watch them over and over again. You can ask questions during the class with the live chat. We do a PowerPoint presentation. There's a ton of information that we cover. All right. Okay, look, we had to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you tomorrow night. Peace.